He was a keen observer. Nothing escaped his glance. I hope I never lose that immediacy, that kind of exploration.
The popular New Yorker cartoonist Ed Koren lives in rural Vermont, where he creates humorous portrayals of life with his distinctive shaggy-haired characters.
People say, well, I don't really know, what's your work like? And I say, well, it's, there's a lot of hair. He said, you're the guy who does the fuzzy drawings. What I want people to see, for one thing, it's funny. So I hope they see that it's a comical situation.
Ed has been creating cartoons for over 4 decades, inspired by early American and European caricaturists and satirists, and somewhat surprisingly, the Japanese artist Hokusai.
I've been aware of Hokusai for years, decades even. His sense of the human comedy and the sense of history and the breadth of his genius. It emboldens me, actually, to continue on.
Katsushika Hokusai was born in 1760 in Edo, the city now known as Tokyo. He created an extraordinary number of drawings, paintings, and designs for woodblock prints and books over a span of 70 years, with subject matter ranging from the mundane to the grotesque.
He's not funny in the deep belly laugh kind of funny, and it's a deeper awareness of the overall, I like to use the word human comedy. His hand is always there. I can feel it. I can sense it. And if I look at it, the drawing and the line with the magnifying glass, I really can almost touch his fingers. It's really a very mystical sense of being close to this man, and who I admire profoundly. But the wizardry and the grace and the choreography and the clothing is something that I just marvel at. And then the heads and with the expressions, and also the choreography of the body within their layers of drama. Really, each drawing has a drama to it.
It all begins with a simple line and the desire to experiment. Hokusai was just 6 years old when he picked up his first brush and began capturing the world around him. Although his subject matter varied greatly, Hokusai's style was distinctive from his traditional contemporaries, favoring extreme angles, asymmetrical arrangements, and whimsical compositions.
This is a remarkable drawing because of all of those elements that he's playing with, of quickness and of observation and of exploring the way to situate the fisherman's head. I mean, either looking this way or straight ahead into the waves. I love this drawing. It has such different scale and different strength to it. His brushwork is really something that I savor, because I don't use a brush. And the skill involved in this is so much more than what I use, which is a steel pen that I dip in ink. Simple Speedball A5 pen point that you can still buy. It has its own voice, and the pen and the paper have this little dance together. Hokusai. It's much more complex. But you can see where the brush is laden here, and it kind of has one motion, and there's a different motion there, and then there's a lighter brush stroke there, same here, and then a darker one there. And then you can feel the motion of his hand. The heads, these two heads, is very different. They're much lighter, more delicate, more slowly worked. These are quicker, faster, and more improvisatory. These are beautiful, all of them. Every drawing fills the space beautifully, as if there's a drawing instructor saying, yes, 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 very nicely, proportioned.
Ed is intrigued with Hokusai's technique and how small details infuse characters with life and meaning.
The linear, choreography of each fold, that goes this way and then that way and vertically, and then it has a kind of motion down here. And then you have this terrific, entirely different view and motion and of the hand and of the mind, because it's such a quick read and a quick observation. The details in here gives it a real liveliness. By default, it creeps into my own work happily. And every now and then I do a drawing and I say, wow, that I can see where this comes from. It just, I've picked this up from my deep immersion in looking at his work, getting a sense of who he was and what he was interested in. I was paid particular attention to the eyes because there's a key to what is going on in the soul and the mind. What I strive for when I am drawing in my characters is the gaze, almost, the way that the people are interacting, or animals interact, but the eyeball and where it is key to the whole characterization of what I'm really after. What's interesting is that here with the elephant, you sort of almost get a feeling that the elephant has separate, interesting thoughts because of the gaze. Somebody who uses animals with emotions and sometimes as stand-ins for humanity. Animals are better. They seem to work. They're funnier for me. And Hokusai's hair is the way he draws it is very varied, and he uses it very expressively with each brush stroke. It's almost as I like to draw hair. It's loving. There's a kind of fascination with it and what it can do with these little strands of hair. And this drawing in particular fascinates me because the hair is so much a personality in the drawing. This is where the stylization is so strong, and the length of it, the density of it. It's almost like it's choreographed along with everything else. Feet play such a role, but the way they are part of the larger drawing themselves itself, and how each of them determines how the weight of each figure is placed on the earth without any ground plane at all. There's no indication of a solid surface that it's on, but it's all implied. And this particular foot, this toe supports the entire drawing. These feet are very active. They're as active as the rest of the drawing. It's full of motion and kinetic energy. And one of the things that I'm fascinated by is how the rhythm of a drawing. Each of these have different rhythms, but they're all sustained for the entire drawing. It's both documentary and expressive. It's really a remarkable act of drawing and looking. I have to say it's wonderful to just touch these pages.
This is one of 15 volumes of Hokusai drawings that capture scenes from everyday life. He coined the term manga, or silly drawings, and began publishing them in 1814. They have inspired cartoonists and comic book artists ever since.
There's a kind of quickness and rapidity with the hand. It just moves a lot throughout, just to give the whole scene it's a natural scene, kind of movement. And so everything is in flux and motion. Now that is wonderful. Thinking of the choreography of exercise. It looks sort of like a yoga session, either that or a contemporary fitness and dance studio, or an acrobatic, training session like with this guy. But they all seem to be having a great time. They seem extremely amused and pleased by all the activity. They're quite fanciful, though, using the noses as a prehensile nose almost. Wonderful observation. I mean, this is just like having a sketchbook. Brilliant. The wind. The wind is an element. It's also interesting how his feet are translated into woodcut. I mean, it really is remarkable that the cutting is so precise. You have to marvel at the woodcutter to have achieved the level of detail.
Mass reproduction of artwork was coming into its own in Hokusai's time. To ready a block for print, carvers pasted the original illustration onto the wood and carved over the lines, destroying the paper in the process. This is a rare example of an original Hokusai design that was never carved. For both Hokusai and Ed, their original artwork has an intimacy and nuance that can be difficult to replicate in commercial printing.
Hokusai's work made me realize that there's a very similar process going on, because this is a drawing that will be reproduced, and it will lose its quality as it gets reproduced, and reduced as well. I mean, I'll have a drawing maybe 20 inches, 20 inches wide. It's reduced to 4.5 inches, standard format. Usually, when I think of ideas for a New Yorker cartoon, starting off, I'll do a very rough drawing on a different kind of paper. What I do is I send 4, 5, 7, 10 ideas, all drawn very, very roughly, to the editors at the New Yorker. But when one of them meets muster, and I get an okay, as they call it, a thumbs up, then I'll go take that rough drawing and rework it on a bigger piece of paper, trying all the time to maintain the spontaneity.
Ed agrees to create a cartoon to illustrate his process.
It's a little bit of give and take, and I sort of take away what I don't like and add some more. And it's basically a kind of trance I go into to get this down where I want it. A kind of a trance of concentration. And how the hands are and the feet always are important. The best for me is to have a kind of very light, almost feathery strokes, and somehow the confidence gets built in my hand, and I get a rhythm going.
But as he completes the drawing, something isn't quite right.
Truth to tell, I really don't like this at all. And I started out thinking of a Hokusai woman and her cat, and somehow it morphed into this. Everything is a little off with this, for me at least. The proportions are off, the relationship is a little off. Frankly, it just doesn't work for me. And it isn't funny. It's not, there's no core comical element to it.
Undeterred, he decides to try another theme.
I mean, I love bicycles, and I love people and things on bicycles. I like to watch people in their various ways of riding. You don't never know what's going to spring from your pen or pencil. You know, it's and you shouldn't. If you did, it would be dead. In my case, it's this evolving mystery of where it comes from and where it's going.
This drawing comes together quickly with a different result.
But this is, you know, it's alive. It's kind of funny, and it's a much better relationship to me, more interesting and more comical.
Capturing the essence of a story in a single frame was Hokusai's hallmark. He illustrated some 270 books during his lifetime. He also painted many private commissions, among them this screen representing the 12 months of the year. The composition of each panel leads the viewer to wonder what is taking place, both inside and outside of the frame.
The decisions he makes as an artist and a draftsman are fascinating. It's like, why does it end here, and why not up there or here? You know, and it turns out that there's no other decision to have been made. It's just perfectly balanced. And they're not illustrations per se, but they somehow are a frozen moment of time. But what's interesting to me is also that he's how he's able to preserve this immediacy, the liveliness, the animation.
Water, particularly waves, fascinated Hokusai, and through his brush took on an almost creature-like quality. His great wave print from the series 36 Views of Mount Fuji remains one of the most recognizable images in world art. This extraordinary image of a breaking wave, painted on silk, was one of his final works.
And so it has a kind of brilliance to it that's and energy that just kind of sweeps you up. And you know, there's just you sort of want to surf the ideas of it on how it, you know, relates to what we know of the world. It's true. It's very abstract. You know, very, very wonderful. Kind of deep exploration of these questions. These huts back here, it seems a little discordant with all of these abstract forces going on, and that they live with this and they accept it. This wave is not like any wave anyone but Hokusai knows. It's like it's a secret, and they're kind of living this prosaic life. And to have a world which has no vertical or horizontal, really, it's all in kind of swirling around a center. Again, a snapshot. It's a moment of this wave being just captured, and it's, you know, all its oddness in his imagination. He achieved this in his 88th year, which is a remarkable and wonderful tribute at that age to be as fresh and lively and imaginative. And it's a model for me at least. It's like a fountain of youth standing next to Hokusai, and, you know, maybe hoping that there's some aura that works its way off the silk to me. Thank you. The quote from Hokusai that has stayed with me and lived with me and been part of me for a very long time, and it is this: from the time I was 6, I was in the habit of sketching things I saw around me, and around the age of 50, halfway to 100, I began to work in earnest, producing numerous designs. It was not until my 70th year, however, that I produced anything of significance. At the age of 73, I began to grasp the underlying structure of birds and animals, insects and fish, and the way trees and plants grow. Thus, if I keep up my efforts, I will have even a better understanding when I am 80. And by 90, I will have penetrated to the heart of things. At 100, I may reach a level of divine understanding. And if I live a decade beyond that, everything I paint, every dot and line will be alive. I ask that the God of longevity grant me a life long enough to prove this true. I love that.